Okay, so this is a 2004 or 2006, I don't remember which, Mazda RX8 that we got on Facebook Marketplace for $1,200. And basically the reason we bought this is for the rotary charger swap. So essentially we paid $1,200 for an engine and drivetrain, and there just so happens to be an RX8 attached to it all. And I figured, since we need to use this engine and drivetrain, we might as well try to get this thing going and make sure the engine runs and the transmission shifts and all that stuff that we need to happen. Even though we're not keeping this chassis, it actually doesn't look too bad from this half at least. It's got some paint chipping and the roof is kind of rough, but that's pretty normal. Until we look over here and see that it's actually not so great. Basically, somebody was drifting it, and not very well apparently, because, well, look at it. In here is actually not too bad. It's not great, but it's not too bad. You know, it's not disgusting to be in or anything. The dash is held up really well. Mazda did a really good job with that. It's got a manual transmission as God intended, complete with Naruto shifter. Finally, my dreams are coming true. I've never watched the show, so it's probably actually not my dream, but it's got an air freshener, so yep, that smells not great. The clutch is on the floor, so it's safe to say that that doesn't function. The brakes do though, which is a rare sight. We like to see that. So before anyone asks, no, it does not have a ball chiller. Okay, so here's the stuff that we actually want to see. So supposedly this engine was rebuilt, and it's obviously been apart. You know, it's nice and pretty painted, and it's got new lines for the oil system and new aluminum pulleys and all that stuff. It looks decent. I'm not a fan of the painted things, but anyway. So the previous owner said that the only issues in here are that injector leaks, the clutch doesn't work, which we saw, and it's got a battery drain issue. So if that was the truth, this should be easy peasy to get going, but well, we know how that goes. Yeah, you want to put your air filter right down here so that every puddle you hit just goes straight up into the engine. That's what we want. So I guess the first thing I'm going to try is hook a battery up and see what happens. I don't like the look of that cloud. Anyway, so it came with this battery that was stone cold dead, but it's only 2 years old and it's like a $250 battery. So we charged it for like a week and it is holding a charge so far. So we'll see if it works at all. Oh yeah, the fighter pilot grip. I can be Naruto fighter. Got a half a tank of gas. Not bad. Really don't know what to expect here, so. So we've definitely got a fuel leak here, but hey, it actually tried to start somewhat. Also, that gas smells pretty old. I think this thing sat for like 2 years, judging by the date on the battery, so that makes sense. The rain is here. Dude, every single time I try to work on something outside, it's always some shit. Like the biggest ice storm of the past decade, or rain every day of the week, or some shit. Okay, we're good for now. So I'm gonna go ahead and start removing shit and see if I can find that fuel leak. This intake is like full of dirt. That's not good. Okay, so we did some archaeology to pull the fuel rail out, and it appears that one of the O-rings is missing, which would definitely cause a leak. So we're gonna get it some O-rings and throw it back in and it'll probably be fine. So the RX-8 was kind of seen as a marketing failure by most people. And a lot of people like to say, oh, well, it's the emissions equipment. You know, they choked it out. They made it even less reliable. And you know, that definitely didn't help it any, but I don't think that's why it was seen as a failure. Because if we look at the RX-7s, they all had the sort of same design. They were low and sleek. They had 2 doors, 2 seats, and they were a fastback hatchback. They looked cool. And for the RX-8, they threw all that in the trash and made it a 4-door sedan. Yeah, I mean, they did the half doors that open backwards, and they're kind of neat, but it's still a 4-door, and it's still got 4 seats. And it's not a hatchback. It looks like something that mom would go buy cornflakes in rather than a dedicated sports car. And you know, that's not to say they're not cool. You know, it's still a rear-wheel drive rotary car. It's hard to say they're not cool, but they're just not RX-7 cool. And what sucks about it is it seems as if Mazda looked at the dislike for the RX-8 and said, oh, well, I guess people don't want to buy rotary cars anymore. No, you made a 4-door RX-7 that nobody asked for. Anyway, so while we have all this shit apart, it's easier to access the clutch stuff. So we got it a master cylinder. I'm gonna bleed it and see if we can get that working. So I'd assumed since the pedal stuck to the floor and didn't return, the master cylinder was bad, but the new one does that too. So pretty sure we did that for no reason. Oh well. Oh, come on. Stupid hose came off. Okay, we have a clutch pedal and it's really stupid easy to press. I looked it up and apparently they're just like that, so I'm gonna say it's normal and move on. Okay, we got O-rings for the injectors, so we're gonna put Humpty Dumpty together again. Okay, so I cycled the fuel pump a few times and it doesn't seem to be leaking anymore, and I see why it was put together without an O-ring now, because it's a pain in the ass. You have to so carefully put the fuel rail on perfectly straight in one go. If you pull it up at all, the O-rings fall off. The word serviceability did not cross the engineer's mind, not one time. So I was looking back here and found that one of our pretty red coolant hoses was put on with no clamp. So after the engine warmed up, that would have blown off. My confidence in this thing is kind of going down because we've already found two things. We found a missing injector O-ring and a missing clamp. So what else was put together wrong? I imagine that's not the only two things. So rotaries are technically 4 strokes, but they're functionally 2 strokes. So pretty much everybody puts 2-stroke oil in the gas, and I'm not really sure how much this already has in it. So I got a little bit laying around. I'll throw it in there. Drink up. Holy shit, this intake pipe is dirty inside. Is this filter doing anything? It acts like it wants to go, but doesn't go. Making plenty of smoke. Well, we're back to where we started with the no start issue, except now we don't have a fuel leak, so progress. So since when we're cranking it, it kind of sort of starts to run, but not quite. It sounds to me like some of the rotor faces aren't making compression. So I'm gonna pump some ATF down the spark plug holes, and hopefully that'll free up any apex seals and make them work again. Okay, we'll let this sit in there overnight and do its thing. And hopefully tomorrow it'll have compression and start. And another comparison is, see how difficult everything is to get to on this thing? Like, the engine is literally underneath the windshield. And that's another downside of making it a 4-door versus the RX-7, where everything is so easy to get to. Like, I can reach back here and put my hand on the transmission because the engine is so far away from the firewall. Everything is here. You can change the intake manifold or whatever you want to do, and it's super easy. Like, if I had to compare these cars based on difficulty to work on, I'd give that like an 8 and that a 2. I went ahead and cleaned out the intake just so we don't suck in any more dirt than we have to. I don't know if this thing was run without a filter or if that K&N just sucks, but anyway. So the ATF has had a chance to sit overnight, so hopefully it'll just kind of start now. That's the idea. Hey. I was right. It was stuck seals. ATF is magical. So it'll start, but as soon as I try to rev it at all, it just dies. So, not sure what that's about. There's definitely some computer shenanigans going on. Yeah, it'll start up and run fantastic for about a second, and then it's a hard cut. It just goes like the computer's deciding to shut it down all of a sudden. So the only thing the computer's complaining about is it says the map sensor circuit is low. So we either got a broken wire or a bad sensor. Okay, apparently the map sensor is attached to the smog pump that I didn't have in there. So hopefully with that plugged in, it'll stay running. So I plugged the map sensor in. It's actually a barometric pressure sensor. I don't think a vacuum line goes to it. It just kind of measures the outside air pressure. So I don't know. See if it starts now. Okay, so I think what's happening now is it's burned all the ATF out and now it's no longer making enough compression to start again. So we can't tell if this fixed it or not. So we're gonna have to put something else in there. Okay, we're just gonna pump regular old motor oil in this time because we just wanna make it make compression again so it starts again so we can see if plugging in that sensor fixed the problem. Okay, we lubed up the engine again, so now hopefully it'll start. Okay, it stays running now. So I tried to pull it around and go through there, but I literally couldn't see to do that from the smoke. So I'm gonna get the trailer out of the way. It doesn't help that half the exhaust is missing. It ends like right here somewhere. Holy shit, there's a Back to the Future smoke trail on the ground. The smoke haze. Holy shit. So all that starting and dying problem was this stupid ambient air pressure sensor. Basically all it does is tell the computer that there's air outside. And with it unplugged, it just goes, ah, I'm on the moon, there's no air out here, turn the engine off. All right, so currently there's no coolant in this thing. So that either means they never bothered to fill it, it leaked it all out, or it burned it all, and I'm not sure which. So I was gonna replace the thermostat just out of preemptive maintenance, but then I saw that the one that was in it is a Mishimoto, and that's like a $70 thermostat versus the $10 one I was gonna put in it. So yeah, I'm gonna put this one back. I'll swap the seals over though. I'm usually pretty critical of car engines and their dumbness, but this being a rotary, I'm kind of not. Just because if you think about it, piston engines have been in development for over 100 years. We've been making these things and improving them forever and ever and ever. And at this point, there's no reason for us to make an unreliable piston engine. And yet we still do somehow. The rotary has not had near the development time, so it kind of gets a free pass from me. Also, remember how I mentioned a battery drain issue? Well, now that it's a little bit dark outside, we can see there's some LED lights in the gauge cluster that never turn off. So that's probably what that is. All right, I put some water in it. So hopefully after running it for a while, it'll stop smoking. Okay, not near as much smoke today. It must have burned it all out already. So there we go, running RX8 for 1,200 bucks. Not bad. It says it has oil pressure. Hopefully it doesn't overheat. I don't see it leaking any coolant, so looking good down there. Damn it, it was running. Why are you so temperamental? I already know the answer, but I'm gonna ask anyway. I'm gonna have to pump more oil in it to make it start again. Maybe this engine is not so good. It's looking like it might not be. Well, it'll run as long as I keep my foot on the gas and keep the RPMs up, but if I let go, it just dies and doesn't start again. And I'm all out of starting fluid, so that's good. I got more starting fluid. Let's do this some more. It runs so smooth after we start it. It makes me wonder if maybe it's another computer issue because The engine seems to be fine once we get it going. Oh yeah, and that oil light is an oil level light, not an oil pressure light, and we've already made sure it has oil in it. So in other words, it's lying, and we're gonna ignore it. The idea here is that if there's a seal that's stuck, it's eventually gonna loosen up. I heard farting over here. This coolant hose is leaking. Okay, I tightened those up. Hopefully that stops leaking. Okay, this clamp is just straight up loose. None of these hoses are tight. Come on. This hose clamp isn't even big enough to torque down in this stupid hose. You know, the more I work on this car, the less bad I feel about tearing it apart. And this one's, what? Really? Whatever stupid eBay silicone hose kit this is came with some shit ass clamps. Okay, I went back to the store and bought some hose clamps. I found 1, 2, 3 more hose clamps that don't tighten down, and I only got 2 replacements. Okay, I'm back with more clamps. All right, I think I replaced all the bad clamps, so don't leak now. Don't do it. All right, so we're gonna try the idle relearn procedure thing. So basically, we turn the key on and press the brake pedal 20 times, and if it'll start, it'll redo its calculations or whatever and remember how to be a car again. At least that's the idea. Live, car, live. If I let go of the gas, it just dies. So I guess we won't let it die. Power steering doesn't work. Okay, well, we're moving. There's a lot of smoke in here. Smoked out. Okay, we smoked out the entire road. All right, so I made a pretty big discovery while we were on a little excursion. So the brake booster does not work, and that's either because of a broken brake booster, or since it works off of vacuum, there's a massive vacuum leak somewhere in the intake manifold. And there's also the issue of, since we're missing half of our exhaust, it exits right next to all that nice and flammable ATF we poured in there, next to a plastic fuel tank. Nice. So kind of afraid that that's gonna catch on fire. And you know, I could buy an exhaust or fabricate one and fix that and get the smoke tester out and fix the vacuum leak in the intake, but why? You know, we're not using this chassis. That'd be a lot of work for basically no reason. We've already made sure that the engine is at least somewhat good. We can rebuild it if it's not a huge deal. We know the transmission shifts, we know the rear end is good, we know the suspension is good, the steering is good, all the stuff that we're gonna need for the charger swap. And I'm just getting an eerie feeling with this car that I should quit while I'm ahead. So that's what I'm gonna do. Oh yeah, I never tested the radio.
Welcome back to Joe FM. I don't actually work here. The door was unlocked. I let myself in. Who is that?
No, that works. Also, when we do put this engine in the charger, this computer is not going in with it, because not only does it use an electric throttle, it also has bad flooding issues and lots of sensors that I don't care about. So we're probably going to put in a standalone, most likely a Mega Squirt, make it more reliable. Oh yeah, and I found tools back here. I got sockets, I got a free ratchet. This car's paying for itself. This guy was drinking Gold Peak tea. Ugh, extra sweet. Ugh. And people have been asking me like, oh, what about the RX-7? What happened to that car? When are you gonna work on the RX-7? Fix the RX-7. Okay, remember the Charger? Remember how much work that car was? This car is a basket case. It needs even more work. And I just don't have the time at the moment to do it. We're gonna do it at some point, just not at this moment. Anyway, subscribe.